All right, today my Wild Power Sports interior dome light came. I'd been watching different YouTube videos on people who had done dome lights, and I think these guys primarily make these for the Can-Am X3 or something like that. But they started making this kit for those of us that don't own that vehicle. So I'm putting this on my Honda Pioneer 2021. And it comes with everything you need. I've got a rocker switch for my panel, and it lights up, and it's a 5-prong rocker there, and it's wired up. So this is the wire, and let me start with the light. So once I mount the light inside, and I ordered 1.5 inches. I hope that was accurate. I might need 1 3/4 inches, but they have 2 options, and you tell them what you want. They sent me 1.5 inch brackets, so I can bracket this. So I'm going to bracket up behind the 2 seats, so it shines down towards the dash and over my head. And it's a really bright light, so it'll fill my 2-seater cab really well. I've seen guys put multiple of these in their units too, but this will be enough for me and my 2-seater. So you bracket this, and then these power wires are left to couple in with this guy. And they send you, I already have these, but they send in the kit even, these soldering heat shrink connectors. So I believe that's solder that'll melt in there. If not, I'm going to use my own, because I have some that have solder inside there that with a heat gun. It'll melt, bind the wires, and then shrink or heat wrap these guys onto the wiring. So, and then I'm going to run it along the bars and down to my dash. Pop this guy in my dash setup, and they have a connector that just connects right into the back of that housing. So it's pretty slick there. I will probably tuck all of this, well, not probably, I will tuck all this wire into this loom. I've got 1/4 inch and 3/8. I think I might go with the 1/4 inch just to protect it. And then I bought the loom and the zip sides separate from this kit, and I'll zip tie it to the bars and run it right down in, so it'll be pretty concealed. The only trick that I have to decide what to do is they do have these wires running off of this plug-in off the back of the rocker. They have these wires running off, and you're supposed to just tie them into either, if you already have a fuse box or panel that you've built for your accessories, you can tie them in there, or you can tie them into switched power. For now, I think I'm going to tie them into switched power. I am starting to accumulate some items like a Stinger relay, and then a fuse box. This Blue Sea fuse box so I can hook up 6 different accessories to it. And I think I was gonna run a dual battery system, but instead I think I'm gonna put a large battery under the driver's side seat. But that's gonna be a little more involved, and it might get pushed off till summer. But I want the dome light for plowing during the winter months here. So I think I'm just going to tie this into my 12-volt switched power lines right there behind the dash, just as a temporary measure. And that way I'll have a nice dome lighting for plowing during the winter when it's dark, so I can see inside the cab when I want to. But it's dark outside tonight. But tomorrow most likely I'll be installing all of this, and I'll show you how I do that. And here's the instructions that came with it. And again, it's wildpowersports.com. So I just ordered it from them and it came right to me. So pretty slick. So I told you I was gonna splice the wires. With their kit, the connector, you crimp it. And I told you that I was gonna use my own that have a solder, and I just ordered these online. I've seen other guys use them. And what you do is, I just used some sample wires here to show you. I didn't film me doing it, but I just slipped the wires in until they overlapped with that solder piece in the middle. And then you just take any type of heat source. I just have this heat gun, Harbor Freight heat gun. It's kind of cheap. I think it's 15 bucks. and you just hold the heat on it. And that solder, so I just overlapped the wires inside there, and that solder melted into the wires and binds them together, and then it heat shrinks the plastic housing, so that, I mean, this is a connection that just won't come apart. I pulled on it as hard as I could with both hands. Well, not as hard as I could, but pretty darn hard with both hands, and it wouldn't come apart. So it's permanently connected. And I'll do that where I connect to the light unit to the long wire coming up along the pipes, the roll bar from my dash rocker. So anyway, I just wanted to show you that. All right, so I think I've decided to mount this light, I've got this crossbar, I've got this crossbar, and I could put it straight above and have it shine straight down, but I'm afraid if I'm sitting here, I might have a glare in my eyes. I'm not sure, but, and then back here, I'd like to mount it right in the middle, but I've got this wraparound strap. I thought about cutting into it, but I didn't want to compromise it. So I sat in here, and I think I can mount it right here in this space, this natural space there, or even on the other side, but I think I'm gonna mount it right here, and I'll have plenty of light in the cab. So if I'm sitting here reading a map at night, trail riding or whatever, or anything, or while I'm plowing, if I need to look at anything inside to hook something up or adjust things, I can flick that light on and it'll be right there, and I think it'll be perfect. So I think I'm gonna run it around here, along here, drop down here, and pop right inside my, just come in through this gap here. And then I will put the rocker switch right here. I've already popped my rivets on this crossroads3d.com thing I bought. If you want to look at my other video, you can see how that works. And I'll just come right in there. And again, for now, I'm going to temporarily tie into just the 12-volt power until I get my second battery installed and have a fuse box and everything, and then I'll tie it all into there. So just a couple temporary measures to get me through winter plowing. I don't think I'll add too much more other than side mirrors and a couple things, but nothing more electrical, I think. So let's go from there. On these Crossroads 3D deals, these units, you can just pop them out, and then they have the pre-cut deals in the back. You can see they're almost cut all the way through. You can see the light shining through. So I'm just going to use this knife, cut it out, and toss the rocker switch in, and then start running the wiring. I'll pick up after I make it a couple more steps. It out here, right where I want it to come out to go up that pole. And then I've got it coming into the dash in there. I don't know if you can see that with the glare. And I'm just grabbing it. I'm using two hands, grabbing here and pulling, and grabbing here and feeding. And it's just snaking right through there, just perfectly. I ended up not doing the loom on this because it's gonna fit right inside these brackets just perfectly without it. And this is a heavy duty type wire with a natural casing to it. I don't know if you can see that. It's a hard casing, so even if this wire rubs and gets nicked, it is really hard. That casing is super hard. It would be hard to cut into. So I think these wires are perfectly protected. I might put some loom around it just as it snakes through here in case it gets rubbed. But even then, I don't think I'll need it at all. All right, so now I'm coming up out of here, out of this hole, down out of my dash, and I'm just feeding it right up through this clamp. If you don't have these clamps, then you might do it another way. I've seen guys just wrap it around the clamp, but this wire is perfectly fitting up through there. And then it's gonna go through this other clamp as well. Sorry about my filming here. I'm trying to do it with one hand. Anyway, so it'll feed up through there and then come up around here. Oh, and then feed through that clamp and go to there. Let me do that. Okay, I've got that run. I've got my rocker switch in, wiring down in there that I need there. Comes across the dash, comes right up. I'll zip tie this. This is such a sturdy wire that it's hard to get it to flatten out. You might, it's really cold. It's like 15 degrees right now. So you might unwrap this and let it sit in your warm house or shop for a few days to get it straightened out. I'm just gonna zip tie this up in here. I went through this bracket and then I dropped into this, and then I've just got it looped in here so I have a little bit of extra. And then we'll start wiring up the light, or putting the clamps on and then getting the light up in there and then connect the wires. So we'll go to that point. I actually took this back out, the wire. So I ran it so that it's going to there so I could test it, but then I won't be able to slip it through this guy. I'm just gonna have to zip tie it across there without going through this bracket, because you have to wire up the housing, the light to the line you've just run from here. So I've got them all put together. I ended up not using theirs. This is a crimp style, and I wanted this solder style, so this solder should melt in there. So I've got it all ready. I just push the wires through together so they're sitting in the middle of that tin inside there, the solder that's gonna melt, and then everything else will heat shrink. So let me get that up and go. All right, so I've got the gun on. Let's get these. Okay, I'm gonna have to, you can see that the solder is melted in there pretty good. So I'm gonna use two hands to flip this over. Okay, so those are nice and those are solid. They're not gonna pull apart. The solder is melted down in there, and they're pretty tight on the other lines. I'm gonna tape it all up just to protect it and to well, mainly to protect it. So this guy's all ready. I did work the brackets up into here. I just unzipped and then slid them up into place. And it's looking a lot like I needed 1 3/4 inches. I think I can make these 1.5 inches work, but you can order the kit that comes with 1 3/4 inches or 1.5 inches. I swore these are 1.5 inch pipes. But man, it's gonna be tight on there or awkward. So, but it looks like it's gonna fit just right. Something to keep in mind with these wires is I unwrapped where they had already tied into where it goes into the rocker, and just to see, and it had blue going to black and brown going to red. So I just jotted a note there, but hopefully that's right. Hopefully that's correct. So I just followed the color pattern they had going to the back of there. But I did have to undo their tape down where they junctioned the wires. They had put these types of deals on there, but then they taped over it. But I just double checked to see what color went with what. So hopefully that's all right. Otherwise I'll be snipping this and doing it all over again. All right, let's see if I can get this mounted up in with this rubber boot that slips onto the back so that you can pin it against the bar. It's got a curve to it, that rubber boot. But the goofy thing is, unless I'm not understanding, the wire comes out of the housing, so I don't know how you get it to seat snugly on that bar. Seems like the wire should come out of the side housing somewhere. Maybe that's what those holes are. No, doesn't seem like it is. Maybe I did screw that up a little bit. Maybe I should have drilled that hole out and then ran the wire out through that hole. It's too late now. So I'll probably just mush it up against there. Call it good. All right, this is turning into the trickiest part of the whole thing. Taking forever. I think these are the right brackets at 1.5 inch for my Honda Pioneer 700 2021 for this bar. Man, it is not a good fit. It just doesn't like it. And so I could not get the nuts onto the bolts with this housing in the way. And the more I look at this housing, the more I don't know why I'd have it on there. Unless I'm putting these on wrong. But anyway, so I just took this housing off. And then I went and grabbed a couple of rubber washers. I had some pole barn screws, so I took them off there and I screwed them in here. So I snugged them up there, and that'll create some rubber between this lighting unit and these metal brackets. And then I think I'll be able to get this on. So let me see if that works. All right, that seems to have worked. You can see my assembly back there. Now that I've gotten it, I'll bet maybe even with these 1.5 inch brackets, I could have made it work with that big rubber housing in there. But probably for sure with 1.75 inch, it would have fit perfect. But I think this setup will work. It's not going anywhere. I just tucked the wire back in there, pulled that back down, zipped it across, and now I've just got to zip tie my wire all together and tie it in to the power. But otherwise, I think it's going to be perfect where it sits. I'll be right here, and it'll just cast light through the whole cab. So we'll see. On my wiring, all I did is I had this cord hanging off my dome light rocker, and it has the black and the red, and it didn't come down far enough for me to tie into the 12-volt power back in there and still have accessibility, so I had to shrink wrap an extension on. So I just extended the black wire, and I just reached it back in there, and let me take this out. And I just quick linked it into the green there. And then on the red, I just did the same thing, only instead of looping back down, my winch already is tied in to the power down there, so I have switch on power. So on the red coming off the rocker switch, I just quick linked it into this coming off my other. I know this is, those of you who do wiring, this is kind of a goofy setup, but really all I wanted to do was just a simple quick wiring assembly. So I had my winch operational and my light operational for the rest of the winter, and then I'll come back in and put in a fuse panel, a relay, either a second battery or a big battery. So again, so however you wire it up, it's a cool unit, and it wires in easily however you Right, got the dash all put together, and it looked pretty slick. I got lighted. These are both lit up with the ignition on, and you got power to the light. I'll come back out when it's dark and fill some more, but I just zip tied that line back in here, and can't even really tell it's there unless you come in looking for it. It's tucked away there, and I've got some extra line back in here in case I ever decide to move this guy. But I think it'll be perfect right there. I wish it was in the middle, but I think it'll broadcast that light right where I need it to be. So I'm pretty happy with it. I'll come back out when it's dark and show you how much it lights up in here. But 50 bucks, and it's a pretty nice setup. So the hardest thing was the bracketing on there. That was a pain. So anyway, but I think it's gonna be worth it. I'll be happy to have some light in here when it's dark through the winter. All right, I just got home. It's dark. Let's go test out that light. I'll show you how bright it is. It is 2 degrees outside, so it's pretty darn cold. But let's go turn off these house lights and see how it goes. Pretty chilly. Get all these lights out. All right, I'm sitting here in the vehicle. Shut the door. Click that on. You can see my rocker switches lit up. So I like that. And let's give it a click. Boom. Look at that. So I'll turn and the light is just to the right of my head looking forward. So I've got plenty of light here in the cab. My head kind of blocks it a little bit, but I mean, I just turn slightly to the side. I can read maps, whatever I need. I can see on my dash. I can see in the glove compartment. So pretty sweet. And you can see that dash all lit up with those rockers. 2 so far, more to come. So pretty sweet. I love it. I mean, it's a ton of light. Let me back off here. You can see how much light is coming out of that one little spot. You don't notice it in the daytime, but that's kind of crazy. So less than 50 bucks, wildpowersports.com. Had that whole kit. You could probably put your own kit together somehow for cheaper, but it was so slick. I liked it a lot. So nice. So I got a dome light in my side-by-side. So perfect. Thanks.